high school early because of the stuff that was happened to me as a kid. That the high school wanted me to get out early.
Gotcha.
And so I kind of was able to. They're like, "We just figure your grades out." My high school GPA is probably like a 2.4.
Yeah.
Not very successful. The things that at a young age that I found that I knew worked for me was I could work hard and show up.
Yeah.
And I worked at a hospital while I was in high school and made quite a bit of money where I was essentially able to kind of take care of myself. And my parents couldn't tell me shit. Yeah. And so I could buy my own car, had paid for my own car insurance. All of it was out of my pocket. And I was like, so that kind of started I know that if I work hard enough for something, I can get it. Yeah. And it started at a young age, even though all this other sexual abuse from my stepfather was happening.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Now, because there seems to be like a theme, like majority of the folks that I interview that, of course, we know, right, as just SF guys, once you dig into their stories, we're like, hey, man, where'd you come from? There's a consistent thing of, hey, we all come from humble beginnings is what they say. I'm like, dude, that's just a nice way of saying we all were poor as shit, right? So I don't know what it is, but it's like that prepares us for this life of not only in the military, but in special operations.
I think that knowing that is a precursor to from some next follow-on things to go to selection, to be a part of a team. Yeah. Who that mission set that we do, what type of person you have. Gotcha. That's going to go into SOF or Ranger Regiment or anything like that. There's a certain breed of person that they get that come from hard times.
Yeah. And it's all like it's always, hey, you know, whether it's, you know, being poor or whether it's gang life or experiencing adversity, I feel like it all at an early age pretty much starts to program us for what hardship looks like, whether it's a selection or deploying and taking lives and all of that shit. So
right. So one of the behavioral health things is like the adverse childhood experiences.
Yes.
Like, so if you have one of those 10 things, like for me, I think I have like 8. So it's like as those start to add up and you don't really screw over your life and you start to see guys who tend to lean towards the military, I bet like you'd be like start clicking them off. Like these guys all have these experiences in their life. And it's like we don't want to say we want the hard people, but it takes hard men to go do hard things.
Yes, I agree 100%.
And so we don't want to be like, we don't want you, but we also aren't going to say we really need you. We're kind of just be like, well, we'll have a selection process. And then we'll just be like, the process of selection says that this type of person is what we need. Yeah. And you kind of already know what it is, right?
You're just doing it to make yourself feel good. Yeah. Now you mentioned, and again, we don't have to go into this because I want folks to go watch the TED Talk that you did not too long ago that I saw. You mentioned the sexual assault aspect of it. And I think it takes a big person to admit that, especially the breed of men that we are, right? So when did you get to the point where you decided to start sharing that story, and how hard was it to overcome the stigma, you know what I mean, that came with that?
So sharing the story of it isn't hard. There's some other things that is harder that took me much longer to be able to talk about. Yeah. But when it happened, it was fine to talk about. I went to college and I had to prosecute him and go on stand, and I had to tell my friends that that's what I was going to do. Yeah. So talking about it wasn't that big a deal. In the military, I kind of, from 2000 to 2014, I kind of just kept it in. Yeah. And I kind of used it as fuel, and didn't really go to behavioral health or anything like that. It's after my 5th combat deployment where I was like, something's not right. Yeah. And I started going to behavioral health, and like in closed sessions is where I start talking about what's going on.
Gotcha.
So the harder part that I had to deal with and be more honest about is that there was times where I wanted it to happen, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Those two things were the hardest things to be able to tell my team room or anyone else.
Yeah.
Because everyone sees that it's like, it's just this awful thing. But as an 8-year-old, when someone like have a biological response, understanding why my brain wanted that to happen and why my body wanted it to happen took me until I was in my late 30s.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the biggest breakthrough for me in getting better is that it wasn't really my choice.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it was okay to talk about, like, hey, yeah, I was just sexually abused as a kid. Not a big problem to say. But now to go in deeper about how my brain and my body felt was completely different and much harder to do.
Gotcha. And like I said, guys, I will put the link to his TED Talk in the description so you guys can go check it out, because I think it's a pretty powerful story that Trevor tells, all right? So go check it out.